Just pardon me, I want 1 2 minutes. I want 2 3 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So I welcome all the participants, my dear colleagues and students. I, Dr. Sheetal Kamble, on behalf of School of Sciences, PP Savani University, welcome you all for the national webinar on Advanced Sustainability Assessment. So now let us welcome our honorable speaker, Dr. Pradeep Kalbar, who was awarded PhD in Environmental Science and Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Presently, he works as assistant professor at IIT Bombay at Center for Urban Science and Engineering. He is also associate faculty at interdisciplinary program in climate studies. Prior to joining as faculty, he worked for 2 years as postdoctoral researcher at Division for Quantitative Sustainability Assessment, Department of Management Engineering at Technical University of Denmark. His areas of research includes water supply, water treatment, life cycle assessment, circular economy, and climate change mitigation. Recently, interventions based on his work for improving water supply in India are adopted by Ministry of Jal Shakti for implementation in all the states. Also, he is member of Technical Advisory Committee for Water Supply and Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai and member of International Water Association's Specialist Group on Intermittent Water Supply. He has authored 3 book chapters and published several scientific papers in peer-reviewed international journals of repute and conferences. He is reviewer for many international peer-reviewed journals and conferences like Journal of Industrial Ecology, Science of the Total Environment, International Journal of Life Cycle Assessment, and Journal of Cleaner Production. He also has wide experience in the area of water sector, urban waste management, and environmental sustainability. So now let us welcome and request him to start today's webinar. So over to you, sir. Pradeep, sir, you can start with your session.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Sheetal. And good morning to all. Good morning, students, faculty members, and all the participants. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay, so I will share my screen now. So is screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so today I'm going to speak on sustainability assessment. Sustainability is a very broad term and has many meanings to many different stakeholders. Today's talk will be more on giving some dimension to this particular broad area, to what are the different meanings of sustainability and how we can really measure scientifically sustainability of different technologies or products or services. So this particular area I have been pursuing since my PhD time, and now I have a couple of PhD students who are working on different issues such as sustainability of transportation system, sustainability of food waste, how we can better manage the waste or wastewater. So those are the broad areas. So first I will introduce the topic, and then later we'll have some case studies, and then I will open the session for question and answers. Okay. So first we have to understand why we have to worry about sustainability and where we are going. So on this graph, on x-axis you have timeline from 1900 to 2008, where, and on the y-axis you have material extracted by us, by human anthropogenic system, biomass, fossil energy carriers, ores and industrial minerals and construction minerals. For example, extraction of construction material grew by a factor of 34 globally. Okay, so that has happened in last 1 century. Extraction of ores and minerals grew by a factor of 27. Extraction of fossil fuels grew by a factor of 12. Extraction of biomass grew by a factor of 3.6. So there are various stresses are posed by consumption that we are doing. And consumption is, there is a personal consumption that each one of us use something for our day to day use, and then there is a economic or societal consumption, that we have roads and buildings and other things which are also required to sustain life. So what has happened is, the consumption per se in different countries, if you trace, this kind of data is not yet available for countries like India, but in Europe they have traced what has happened in the personal consumption. And this particular report, what it finds is that personal consumption grew by a factor of 35% in European countries from 1990 to 2007. So, and this is what exactly happened in India also after 1990. After economic liberation, a lot of import is happening of products, and our personal consumption has increased drastically. So what is the effect it is doing is, it has created a various stress on the environment, such as natural resource depletion, environmental impacts such as climate change, global warming, eutrophication. Our lakes and rivers, you can see those are polluted. So various things are happening, and those needs to be attended. So considering this, and not only in India but globally, United Nations Environmental Program has proposed a challenge which is called as decoupling challenge. Decoupling challenge meaning, if you study this graph from on, again, on x-axis you have time, and it is just a notional, not exactly to the scale, but let's say this is starting from industrial era 1960s and 70s, and this time, and on y-axis you have intensity of what, let's say one indicator is human well-being. So since 1960s 70s, the human well-being has been increasing, and now in last, since 1990, it has tremendously improving. Even in rural areas you can see that lifestyle is changing, people are having better lives. Those are changing because we are supplying huge amount of products and services to the all individuals and every level. This is good that we are developing, but what has happened in the process is that our use of nature has increased a lot. So you can see this graph, which is use of nature. Okay. So what is happening is that we are developing, but at the cost of use of nature. And by use of nature, I mean is resource consumption and environmental impact. Okay. So we are basically implying to the nature in a very negative manner by developing ourselves. So what are the solutions? So United Nations has then come up with a decoupling challenge, where we have to decouple this graph with this graph, meaning if we want to develop, the use of nature also has to be stable, at least whatever was the situation between in 1960 and 70. Okay, so that's what is need to be done. How we can do that? There are two strategies we can apply. One is, you can say, change in production, that we improve the technologies, we improve the process efficiencies, some innovation will happen. But is that sufficient? For example, take an example of, let's say, television technology. Okay, in 1980s and 90s, we had a CRT kind of big kind of television, which consumes huge energy. And today's time we have flat kind of television sets, LCD and other technologies, which consume less amount of energy compared to that what technology in 1990s. Now what has happened is, by this logic, we can you may think that, okay, but then energy must have gone down, overall energy consumption in the entertainment sector. But this has not happened, because the number of television set produced and number of hours of watching television has increased drastically. Okay, so on one side we have reduced per product energy consumption, but societal consumption has increased drastically. So we need a technology change, definitely, but that is not enough. We have to bring change in the consumption and production, that both has to be applied. That means not only the technology, how we consume the products, how we consume the materials, how we save, conserve, recycle, reuse the products, that is also essential. And hence the role of a people, role of common citizens is much more than the technology innovation. And that has been proven in one of the study that we carried out in Denmark. We proven that it is not possible to contain the different environmental stress just by technology improvement. So don't think that okay, technology will take care of everything. It's not possible in today's time. We have very high stress on, for example, climate change. To if you check the budget available, climate change budget available as per 2050 2-degree climate change scenario, per capita budget if you take, it comes around 2 to 3 tons per capita. Every year you have to emit only 2 to 3 tons per capita. And average if you take currently for India it is 1.2 tons, but for other countries, western country, it is 12 to 16 tons. And we are going on that path of increased emissions. Okay, so we have to do something very differently. And to how to do that, to know which is the best available options, we have to estimate the environmental footprint or environmental impact. Okay, footprint is in a broad sense is a impact with a much wider scale. Okay, considering for upstream and downstream impacts. So to devise strategies for such decoupling, there is need for estimation of environmental footprint of a consumption components. Okay, that which is the better product from A or B. And the path towards estimation of environmental footprints needs a holistic approach. Okay, that means that you have to take care of all the emissions coming out of this particular product, with from its from where the product is manufactured to the end of life. So this particular holistic assessment is needed, and there are various tools that we are going to study. Okay, so the tools for assessment are, many approaches are used for assessing environmental performance and products. For example, you might have heard of something called water footprint, carbon footprint. Those are some indicators, some methods that are used for assessing the environmental impact. So, but these are some tools which are not much widely used, something called material flow accounting, which do not account for upstream or downstream resource impacts, but it is just a steady state picture of how much amount of material going in and how much amount of material going out from the given system. And you can define a system. System can be a person, can be a city, your house, and you can monitor in your house how many materials coming per year and how much material going out, and you can prepare a mass balance of it, and that is called material flow accounting. Okay, uh, then there are some energy based indicators. You can measure the actual energy consumed, total energy consumed, cumulative energy consumed. These are some energy based. Energy is one of the indicator that is used. So, and but these all tools are lagging something which is called life cycle thinking, that from where everything is generated and from where everything is going out. So that needs a holistic approach, and that's where life cycle assessment comes in picture. Okay, so life cycle assessment is one of the most comprehensive and nowadays widely used tool for assessing sustainability, quantitative sustainability of a product or technology. Okay, so today I'm going to introduce you first material flow accounting and then life cycle assessment. So coming to first material flow analysis, it is a systemic assessment of the flows and stocks of a material within a system in a defined space and time. I have given you example that you can check for your house, that how much material is coming in and how much material is going out. That can compare your house with some of your friends' house. So you can compare how much better you are doing in terms of material intensity. Okay, and that can be represented like this. This is called Sankey diagram, Sankey representation. Okay, so for example, this is the mass balance of or mass representation of, let's say you have a 1 ton of municipal solid waste. If you incinerate or scientifically burn it, what will happen to that is given in this pictorial diagram, which is called 70% will go as off gas and 25% will go as bottom ash, and 2.5% will go as a fly ash. Okay, and some minor fractions will be there. So what this gives you an idea about is what will happen to a particular system when you apply some process to it. Now, if let's say you are interested only in a one heavy metals in this given solid waste heap of 1 ton, and if you trace that heavy metal, for example cadmium, this entire picture changes to this, that entire mass, most of the mass is going in off gas, but 92% of cadmium is going in fly ash. Okay, so you can see that if your interest is cadmium, then you just have to worry about this 2.5% fraction and not rest of the elements. So this is the environmental assessment, that you can really pin down to a problem by documenting these various uh, pollutants, by studying these various pollutants, and depending on your interest, whether your interest lies in off gas or in fly ash, you can focus further. So now if your interest is heavy metals, you just have to monitor this fly ash, what is happening to this fly ash. Okay, and this is very useful tool and used for various purposes. This is one simple purpose I have given you. This can be again used at a very large scale. For example, at a country level, let's say this is a stock, this is the flow of plastics in a country like India. Let's say how much is the import, the production, distribution, consumption, what is the stock. So what happens is, some plastic is imported, some, and then or the raw materials are imported, production happens, distribution happens, consumption happens, and for example there is a stock meaning that that plastic that we are using, some plastic may immediately you will throw out, that is called, let's say, packaging material or anything. Some plastic will be thrown out after some years. For example, plastic that goes into the furniture or some other big elements, those will remain in your house and you will throw it out after 20-25 years. After that many years, this will go in the collection system. Okay, and if that is efficient, then most of it may can go for the recycling purpose, but more in currently most of the things are dumped in a landfill, that is disposal. That's why this thickness of arrow represents the this tons per year. Okay, and this is the export, how much amount of plastic materials that are processed are exported. So most of the things are going as export or disposal. So this very simple graphical representation are useful for analyzing the environmental problems. This same concept can be applied at a global scale, and this is a very wonderful study which will give you an idea about what is happening to the global anthropogenic aluminum cycle. Okay, so if you this particular group of researchers, they have traced across the globe what is happening to aluminum. For example, the aluminum reserves in globe are 7,000, and here is how you can read this graph. The units is million tons. Okay, when it is a stock, it's a million tons, so 7,000 million tons. And when these are the thickness, which are the arrows, it's million ton per year. Okay, so reserves are 7,000 million tons of aluminum. Out of that, then around 35 million tons per year are extracted as a bauxite, then refining as a alumina, then molten aluminum. Okay, and then it goes as a raw material, semi-manufactured products like steel sheets and plates, foils, extrusion wires, and other things. Okay, and then it goes to further manufacturing, for example building and construction sector, packaging, cars, cans, electric cables, and many other. Okay, that's how you trace the entire flow of material of aluminum across the globe. Okay, and this is a very big study, and many researchers were involved. So now what this gives you an idea about what is happening after usage. Okay, that is fine, you had some aluminum extracted and we used in these many sectors. What is happening to the rest of the aluminum? So you can see most of the aluminum, it is going as post consumer scrap, that is going as this arrow, and something about 4.7 million tons per year is going in landfill, that is not going to come back. Okay, so this is the area where we have to work on, that how we can reduce this 4.7 million tons aluminum going into the landfill, how we can save this. Okay, that's how the basic insights you can get from a tools such as material flow analysis or carbon footprint or any other simple indicators. Now doing all this, further analysis is needed because we are not considering the environmental impact of this. We are just talking about the material, but material may have some carbon footprint or material may have some toxicity. So to understand the impact of the materials, we have to uh, think of further analysis such as life cycle assessment. So any questions until now? If you have any quick questions, we can I can take them. I don't want to run through very fast, but any questions? Am I speed is okay?
Yes, sir, your speed is okay. Participants, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Just you can type in the chat box. I will let
Yeah.
you. Some couple of questions I can take it. Okay, so I will move on.
Yes, sir.
It's screen visible now.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
The presentation is visible now.
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. So I'm talking about now. So MFA, material flow analysis, is something that we have to apply initially when to at least get the hotspots of the problem, to know the hotspots of the problem. But still there is something missing that I will cover now, and hence we need a life cycle assessment, okay, which is a another fantastic tool that can be applied. So holistic approach is the key of life cycle perspective. So it internalizes the externalities, meaning some things are not accounted in these other indicators or other frameworks, for example, material flow analysis, whereas LC accounts for everything. And this is the best measure of eco-efficiency, that if you want to assess a particular material, product, technology, LC is the best measure currently available for measuring the eco-efficiency. And remember, eco-efficiency is not exactly same as the resource efficiency, meaning some product may consume less material, but it can be more toxic. Okay, so there is a trade-off between this. So don't think that something is less having less weight is always environmentally better, whereas some products may have higher weight, but those may not pose much toxicity. We'll discuss this in detail. And LCA accounts for local as well as global impacts, meaning that we have the local impacts accounted, such as, let's say, water pollution in the lake or rivers. Those are the local impacts, but global impacts such as climate change, ozone depletion, these are the large global scale impacts. So both are accounted simultaneously in life cycle assessment framework. So what is life cycle assessment? So life cycle assessment is a tool that we have to use because our problems, environmental science and engineering problems, are interdisciplinary, complex, directly correlated with ecology, and only systems approach will give in-depth answer to such problems. So you have to think in a systems to give answers to this particular problem. So life cycle assessment is a methodological framework for estimating and assessing the environmental impacts attributed to the life cycle of a product. Okay, so this is attribution science, that what kind of activity is causing what kind of impact, that kind of attribution we are making in life cycle assessment. So for example, in life cycle assessment, you have to think of raw material acquisition, material processing, manufacturing and assembly, everything you have to consider for production phase. For example, if you're thinking of your mobile phone, all the materials that have gone. For example, M is the material and E is the energy. Everything during the raw material acquisition, the plastic, the aluminium, copper, everything that has gone in your mobile phone is accounted, and manufacturing assembly in at some place, that is your production phase. Then you have the use phase. You buy a mobile from market and you become a user. Okay, so you use, during the use phase you also consume energy, right? For charging your mobile, so that is energy, so that is use phase. And then after using the phone, after it is not further repairable, uh, uh, we discard the phone, and that is end of life phase. So again, there also we have to account for all these waste streams. You see W, and waste streams are gas, liquid, solid, all kind of waste are accounted in life cycle assessment. So this is the broad framework of life cycle assessment, how you have to account. Now there are various methods to quantify this, okay, to actually measure this, but you have to think this particular figure if you want to understand life cycle assessment. Okay, so from production phase to use phase to end of life phase. Okay, so these are the three phases you have to account for when you talk about environmental impact in a life cycle perspective. Okay, now in this what may happen is there can be a reuse of the material, there can be remanufacturing of the materials, or there can be the closed loop recycling. That means some materials are taken separately and again recycled back in a same manner. For example, the aluminum cans that we use, food grade aluminum cans, those are recycled, those can be recycled separately from rest of the waste because those are more costly and has a higher value, and it is better to keep them in a separate loop. And there is open loop recycling, that all sorts of waste are collected together and then taken to the recycling facility, and then segregated, and then further treatment happens. So you have to account for all these arrows when you think of any product. Okay, what will happen to the product? You should have answer to all these arrows in some numbers, not only the qualitative but with some numbers. And to do this, different people can come up with a different methodology. And since LCA was developed in 1990s, after that a lot of research and experimentation happened, and then there was confusion about how to account for these arrows. So ISO has a standard documentation now. So ISO 14040 series is basically dedicated for standardizing the life cycle assessment. So it has defined the major principles and framework for carrying out life cycle assessment. Okay. So in life cycle assessment, you can have a goal definition, scope definition, inventory analysis, impact assessment, and interpretation. So these are the broad 4, 5 stages by which you have to carry out the life cycle assessment. And once you do that, uh, how you can use the results is for product development and improvement, strategic planning, public policy making, and marketing. So there are various purposes that people can use, organizations can use for using this life cycle assessment results. So how you operationalize this, meaning that you define a goal and scope. For example, goal can be that you want to compare two products, that let's say mobile phone manufactured by one company and mobile phone from another company. That can be the goal. Or you may want to improve your own product, that you have one product and you just want to see how minimum impact I'm causing from this particular product or a technology. Okay, so that can be the goal and scope definition. Coming to the inventory, now you have to think of what are the inputs and outputs from all the processes from life cycle perspective. Okay, from production, use phase, and end of life phase. What are the all inputs and outputs are going on? Okay, in the particular given system. And then there are emissions to air, water, or soil, and resources such as land, water, and fossil and metals. So that all inventory is collected, and in terms of pollutants, when you account for all those, you come up with the list of pollutants for different options. So carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, and so many other, for example, pesticides will be there. So many things will be coming out. Heavy metals will be there. The list may run in thousands. Okay, it is just given three here. But in real life, while carrying out the LCA, the list may vary very long. So after that, once you've done the life cycle inventory phase, you have to do life cycle impact assessment, meaning uh, all these in pollutant have to be translated into actual real life impacts. For example, climate change, ozone depletion, photochemical ozone depletion, ozone toxicity, eutrophication, and these all needs to be estimated using like this particular given inventory. So this given inventory is translated to life cycle impact assessment, and that's how you quantify the sustainability of the product, environmental sustainability of the product. Okay, and sustainability may include also societal indicators and other indicators, but in my talk, I'm focusing only on environmental sustainability right now. Okay, don't confuse with other sustainability indicators. These are only environmental sustainability indicators. Okay, now there are different types of LCAs. For example, you can carry out product level LCA that you just compare a product A with B, or organizational. For example, your university, your college with another university or another college or company with another company, or consumer or lifestyle LCA, that person living in India and person living in Europe, that can be comparison, or countries. What is the overall impact of one country with another country? So there are different levels of life cycle assessment. So there are various approaches how you go about it to carry out life cycle assessment. The first approach is called as process-based life cycle assessment, meaning that you collect data for each and every process. Okay, so whatever process, for example, if you think of mobile phone, whatever number of processes are involved, you collect data for each and every part of that. And you can imagine for mobile phone, there may be thousands of small parts going in, and it may be difficult for collecting data for all of that. So there is a economic input output life cycle assessment, which is takes a help of economic tables, national economic tables, and carry out this particular assessment. So first one is a bottom up approach. The economic is a top down approach, and you can couple them. Like you can carry out LCA with some part can be the process based and part can be economic input output based. This is detail oriented. The economic is a completion oriented, and bookkeeping, statistics, science, mass balances. These are the data sources for process based LCAs. And national economic accounts and national emission inventories are required for economic input output. So to start with, you can really start with process based LCA. Economic input output is you can think of latter. I would like to clarify some terminologies. When we think of life cycle perspective, and there are various terminologies that you have to understand. When you carry out environmental assessment inside the company gate, okay, meaning that what is happening inside the company or inside your university or inside your college, that is called gate to gate life cycle assessment or gate to gate sustainability assessment. Okay, that I am not thinking from where the material is coming to my place, and I'm not thinking where these materials are going out of my place. What I'm thinking about is only inside the boundaries, physical boundaries of the organization, company, or whatever you want to think of. Whereas there is cradle to gate, meaning you can expand the scope and say that, okay, I am a, let's say, toothpaste manufacturer. Okay, what I'm thinking is whatever raw material I'm extracting from, I can be responsible and I can account the environmental impact for, but how people will use the toothpaste, how they will throw the carton and other things, I'm not going to be responsible for that. So that is cradle to gate life cycle assessment. And some companies or some places where everything is accounted from extraction, material and part production, assembly, retail, use, end of life management, everything is accounted, is called cradle to grave. Okay, so ideally we want cradle to grave analysis, holistic life cycle assessment, but due to some policies and data limitations, companies may do cradle to gate or gate to gate life cycle assessment. Okay, so these are some terminologies you should remember in environmental sustainability assessment. So coming to the first part is functional unit. That what is functional unit? Because to carry out this particular assessment, comparative assessments, you have to know what is the comparison unit. Meaning, can we compare apple versus oranges? Initially you'll think no, because you cannot compare apple versus oranges, but in real life we end up comparing these two the same, because definitely you cannot compare apple and oranges on kg to kg basis or dozen to dozen basis. Okay, however, if you say that I am a person in for my 1 year of life, and you can estimate the nutritional requirement for your 1 year of life, and to fulfill that nutrition requirement, how many apples or how many oranges you should eat, then you can compare whether you should eat oranges more or apple more. Okay, from environmental point of view, because apple may have a different environmental impact and oranges may have a different environmental impact. Okay, So that's how the thinking, life cycle thinking goes. So functional unit represents what service being delivered by the product and enables different systems to be treated as functional equivalent. Meaning, now apples and oranges are treated functional equivalent when you want to define the nutrition that you are getting from those fruits. So your service is nutrition, and you are not talking now about apple or orange. Okay. So also functionally describe primary functions fulfilled by the product and indicates how much of this function is to be considered in the intended LCA. For example, I'll give you another example. Uh, let's say footwear, your shoes or chappals or whatever we are wearing. How you compare one shoes with another shoes? You cannot compare on one-to-one basis. Why? Because one shoe may last for uh, 1 year, and another company shoe may last for 2 years. So definitely you cannot compare on one-to-one basis. And the primary function of the shoes is protection from the road or the other obstacles, but the secondary function is the aesthetics and the lifestyle or the fashion. That can be the secondary purpose. So you have to define your study. What is the goal? What is the goal you're in? That's why this intended goal of the study, that wording is here. So some products can offer primary and secondary services. For example, footwear. I given you the example. So LCA quantifies the service delivered by the product system. So whatever the service you define, that service, that environmental impact related to that service are quantified using life cycle assessment. Okay. So another example which may clarify you further, let's say shirt. The shirt I am wearing or any one of you is wearing, we want to compare the two shirts, which one is having high quality, another is having low quality. The primary function is shirt for protection from weather and privacy for 5 years. That is the primary function we are talking about. What can be the secondary function? Secondary function can be again aesthetics, lifestyle, fashion. So based on that, your uh, shirt usage will change. But here we are defining shirt for protection from weather and privacy for 5 years. Okay. So this particular let's say the scenario, high quality shirt may last for 3 years, and this low quality shirt may last for half year. So what will happen? You need a lesser number of high quality shirts for 5 years, but 6 number of or more 10 number of shirts for low quality. So ultimately, which will cause more impact? The low quality shirt. So basically, you have to think in from that direction. How much material is going into this particular? But it may also happen that this high quality shirt may have some, let's say, material which may toxic to the environment. Okay. And low quality shirt is a purely cotton, and high quality shirt may be a mixed material, and it may not be a good for environment, and some toxic might be released in the manufacturing or during the use phase or during the end of life phase. And that's where the life cycle perspective comes in picture, and you have to be very careful. Okay. But this is the way to define the comparison unit for life cycle assessment. And you can go on, and there are many complicated examples, and in this very introductory course I lecture, I don't want to cannot cover everything. But for example, you can after this talk, maybe you can think how we can compare different paints manufactured by different companies, how we can compare these lighting products, incandescent bulb and CFL or LED. Okay. So you can think, this is for food for thought, how we can compare this. So next point is that we have to, after you define the comparison unit, you have to define a system boundaries. Okay. So system boundaries is how much is geographical scope of your problem, what is the technical system boundary, what kind of technologies your product system lies in, and temporal meaning how old is your technology. Okay. For example, data that you have collected maybe for the current for the past technology, and you are assessing the product from current technology. So you have to define technical system boundary, geographical and temporal. For example, in our life, we live in this foreground manufacturing system, where everything you can see the industries that are manufacturing, but you do not see the upstream side of this. That industry require water, electricity, steam, so many other things. Those are in the background, and then there is a technosphere which is supplying it. That water is supplied by someone, the other chemicals are supplied by someone, those are the in technosphere. And so and waste are again given back to the ecosphere. Somewhere the waste is going out of entire the city limit or the industrial estate limit. Okay, so this you have to define very carefully while doing the life cycle assessment. So this is the example of a product system for a life cycle assessment, that you account transport, raw material acquisition, production, use, recycling, and waste treatment. Whereas what is coming out of is you require some crude oil, and what is coming out of the emissions to water, soil, or air. Okay, those are the outcomes. So this is the heart of the life cycle inventory, that for every process you have to check what are the inputs that going in: energy, other inputs, ancillary material, and raw material. That is the input side. And output side is what is the material that is manufactured, what are the waste streams, emissions, and waste heat. This all needs to be documented for every process. Okay, that's why we have to use some software tools to do this. So this is a very simple product system. uh, for toaster, let's say you use toaster in your house, and a unit toaster is produced using 1 kg of steel and 0.5 megajoule of steam, and then used for 100 times and then dispose of. That is the life cycle of a particular toaster. So you need some steel and you need some steam, then you produce it and use it for 1,000 times and dispose it off. So you can see the emissions occurring from each of this stage product, each of this process. So like this one box is this one now. Okay, so 1 kg CO2, and we are just monitoring one pollutant, carbon dioxide, and there can be thousands of such pollutant coming out from one process, and that's where the complications begin. And you need to use the software like or spreadsheet to do the calculations. For carbon, it is can be a very simple arithmetic uh, uh, calculation you can do and come up with a number that 6.5 kg of CO2 equivalent. Okay, but what happens if some steel is used for steam and some steam is used for steel manufacturing? Then you cannot do by simple methods. You need to do some metric computations, and that's where the metric inversion and multiplication comes in picture. But that is for those who want to pursue this topic further. So once you do that, then you generate the list of the pollutants. For example, here's the list of different pollutants. Various thousands of pollutants are listed, and those will be transformed to the impacts using some models. Huge amount of models work in background in LCA software. Various impact assessment models are there, and we come up with the global warming, acidification potential, ozone depletion, human toxicity, these kind of impacts for product A and B. After doing all of this mathematics, you come to this particular conclusion. Okay, so these are the different life cycle assessment impact methods. Various universities, various research groups have developed this impact assessment methodologies, and this is one example of a RECIPE method, where a lot of pollutants are matched to different impact categories. So interpretation is a big challenge when you do so much of work. Interpretation is a big challenge. So you have the global warming potential for product A1 and A2. Okay, then there is a toxicity, then there is a eutrophication potential. So what happens is, uh, uh, so you observe the trade-off. After doing LCA also, you have the product A1 performing good in global warming potential, but performing lesser in toxicity. But A2 is performing less good in global warming potential, but performing higher in toxicity impact. So what is happening? There is a trade-off. That one product is performing better in climate change indicator, but not performing better in toxicity, whereas the other product is doing vice versa. So even if you do LCA, the problem is not solved. You are just uh, observing the trade-off, and you need. So that's why there is a need for some further processing, and we can use some multi-criteria decision-making methods to come up with a more aggregated indicators such as human health, natural environment, or natural resources to solve the problem, and you come up with a single score finally for the policymakers. So remember one thing: more data and more mathematical processing you do, the level of uncertainty in the answer is increasing from left to right direction. Okay. Then I'll present a small case study. After doing all of this mathematics, you must have confused how to really apply it. But I will give you one example uh, how we can use this for selecting a appropriate technology for wastewater treatment in India. Okay, so these are the different indicators, different data for cities. So you can see that we supply more water to cities, but wastewater generators remain untreated, and government is planning to put many number of technologies, wastewater treatment technologies. How to choose the best technologies using life cycle assessment framework that I'm going to demonstrate. So there are different technologies in the market, and those who are not known to this particular topic, remember there are many technologies. Like you can call A, B, C, D, but the names are written here. How how to compare them? I'm going to show you. And there is a primary treatment, secondary treatment, tertiary treatment. So this is a sequencing batch reactor or active restless process or MBR or USB or constructed wetland, and these can be selected using what is the purpose, whether the end use the effluent for you want to reuse the wastewater, or whether you want to dispose of the wastewater. Based on that you can select the technology. And for this work I have taken, let's say, one example of activated sludge process which looks like this, and this is from a real life treatment plant in Pune. Then there is some anaerobic sludge technologies there that you can see later. And then there is a constructed wetland technology, which is again from data collected from another real life constructed wetland from Jaipur. So these are very different. These are apples and oranges, really. Means one technology is completely mechanized like this, and one technology is completely natural like this. How you can compare this? And that's where the life cycle assessment comes to help. Okay. So, and then you have the sequencing batch reactor that is shown here. So there are, when you do this life cycle assessment, you come up with the such kind of result, final result. So these are the different impacts, this acidification potential, global warming potential, eutrophication potential. And you can see these are normalized for active distillation process 100%. Okay, but other impacts are normalized to this particular one particular benchmark technology, active distillation process. And you can see that one technology is giving negative result, which is constructed wetland for global warming potential. This is happening because the carbon dioxide that is sequestrated, that is uptaken by the plant, is also accounted. That's why it is showing that the technology is helping in mitigating climate change. Okay, and that is possible to see only because of life cycle assessment. Okay, so this is how this particular study was conducted. But as I said, there are many other aspects need to be considered for carrying out overall sustainability. Until now we have discussed only the environmental part, what is good for environment, but that may not be always economical. Okay, and then the policymaker or the politicians will say, oh, that's good, but we don't have that much money, so can you give me some more economical but little bit better environmental solution? So we need to account for environmental performance, economic criteria, functional and technical criteria, and societal criteria. So that's why when you account everything, then you're talking about entire sustainability framework. So considering this, what you can do is, your objective is to select a technology. So you identify some criteria indicators, collect the data, and you have to apply some multi-criteria decision-making methods. So for example, life cycle costing, life cycle assessment, some actual real-life criteria such as reliability, durability, and flexibility, and then do the actual data collection from how much is the land required for different technology, what is the manpower requirement. So this framework was applied for particular technologies in India, and we carried out life cycle assessment. Out of that, only two indicators were chosen, representative indicators, then life cycle costing, net present worth, and these indicators were correct. And then a lot of further processing, mathematical processing, which I will not go in details, but you can see there are some quantitative and qualitative. Qualitative are, for example, acceptability of a technology from a community point of view, public participation, Those are some qualitative indicators. So we use some normalization methods, and we use one of the most widely used material attribute decision making method. So this is the quantitative indicators: global warming, eutrophication, life cycle cost, and their scores. And then these are the qualitative scores taken from a lot of experts. And then we applied this simple additive weighing method. Then we applied compromise programming. Then we applied TOPSIS. Mathematical details I will not go in, but there are ways you can process this decision matrix and compare the technologies. That you have the feasible set of technologies here, and using different algorithms you can choose which is the better one. Okay, the A1 or A2, and this is your A star is your best possible theoretical solution. A negative is the best possible worst solution, and your actual real life technologies are lying in here. And you can come, so your algorithm can choose. If you apply compromise programming, you end up choosing A1, and you apply TOPSIS, you end up choosing A2. So by a lot of processing, we prove that this TOPSIS is better method for choosing the wastewater treatment technologies. So what we have done further is we have defined 6 scenarios that if you technology to be applied in urban area when there is a land constraint and when you want to dispose the water after treatment, or you want to reuse in urban area. And then there are suburban and the rural areas. These 6 scenarios we have formulated for, and these 12 indicators that we used coming from life cycle assessment, life cycle costing, real life constraint, and some social indicators. Okay, and we applied this particular TOPSIS methodology, and then we come up with the final ranking for these 6 scenarios. That actuarial sludge process is better for scenario 1, whereas the constructed wetland is better for scenario uh, uh, 3, 4, 5, 6, and scenario 2 SBR was better. So depending on your objective, and by using the appropriate set of indicators and tools, you can choose the given technology or product. Okay, so in summary, and that's where I will conclude, that you can use the sustainability assessment methods in a very useful manner, and the sustainability of urban areas can be improved through selection of appropriate technologies. Incorporation of sustainability criteria is very important for uh, each of these solution, and also incorporation of experts opinion, that because some aspect of the technology are not possible to quantify using mathematical models, then you can talk to the experts, and there are methods called as analytical hierarchy process or many other methods where you can apply them. And then finally, to evaluate the alternatives, a suitable multi-attribute decision making method can be used. Okay, so this particular field is very vast, sustainability assessment. In a very short time, I have given you the overview of so many things which you might sound confusing. I'll share you the presentation, and you can study it later. Those students are interested to pursue this. We are running a master's program, Masters in Urban Design and Engineering, where we do a lot of other things. And we also have PhD program where a lot of students are working on advancing these particular concepts and methods. So thank you. I stop here, and I'll be happy to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now participants, if you have any questions, you can ask the questions to sir. You can type in the chat box also. You can type the questions in the chat option.
So, one question is why LC is preferable. So see, LC is preferable because it's a holistic perspective. As I said, if you apply any other assessment technique, you will end up not accounting something. As I told you, in for example, uh, in what example I gave you. For example, let's say your shirt or any clothing. If you use only carbon footprint, the toxicity elements used for manufacturing particular clothing material, or after the uh, use of the particular clothing material, uh, this will become a more complicated uh, problem later. Whereas LCA accounts all these indicators simultaneously: carbon footprint, human toxicity, ecotoxicity, all indicators are accounted. Don't imagine it's very simple. This means thousands of research groups have been working on this particular problem. Those models are available as a backend in the software. So LCA software, there is something called OpenLCA, which is a free software for university students and faculty members. So you can use, you can type it OpenLCA. I will type it here. You can use OpenLCA, which is a tool that can be used for carrying out this life cycle assessment. Some question was again on the any studies on textile composites. Many textile composites assessments are used. Life cycle assessment have been used by many people for assessing the textile composites. Not only textile, construction materials, anything you can do, any kind of analysis you can do with the life cycle assessment. Good question. What is the difference between EI and LCA? Yeah, because of the short duration, I couldn't explain you. So EIA is a environmental impact assessment, and it is a legally binding procedure in India. So we have Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1994, by which every industry or any developmental project in India has to carry out environmental impact assessment. Okay, that is the legally binding procedure. So it has its own protocol, own procedure. However, in EIA, you in the standard EIA, upstream and downstream impacts may not be considered, but in nowadays EIA committees at state level are also asking the people to carry out LCA of a given product or a given project. But LCA is one of the tool to carry out the impact assessment. EIA asks you to do impact assessment by using different tools, and LCA is one of the tools. Means in EIA you can do with carbon footprinting, but EIA also can be done using life cycle assessment. It depends on how many resources, how much time, how much data is available to you. Okay, that is the difference. And LCA is completely voluntary. Right now, none of the country it is making mandatory because of data that is required is very comprehensive. The software tools are not yet widely used, and some of you must be hearing it first time. LC is just an emerging field, and in India we are working with ministry and other organizations to build up a consortium to collect the data, to put up a data together for India. So another question: economical problems are the main cause of the disapproval of this type of scheme by the government. Economical problems are the main cause of the disapproval of this type of scheme by the government. I mean, economic aspects, you see what happens, the question is how the economic aspects are uh, uh, basically prioritized by the government. Means if you go for means government will have a tender, right? Tendering process, they will say we will choose mostly the L1, the lowest bidder they will choose, or the technology which is giving you the lesser cost. Nowadays there is a 70-30% formula, 70% to the economics, or so some mixing is happening. So what happens is you have to give some economic consideration in your analysis, and that's where in the wastewater treatment technology presentation I made, some life cycle costing is also done. So life cycle assessment is for environmental impact, life cycle costing is net present worth of the particular alternative, that is also accounted, and both these indicators are basically processed in multi-attribute decision making method. GATE 2021, yeah, that is question out of scope, but yeah, GATE is announced and environmental engineering paper is going to be there in GATE to 2021, but more information will come through brochures and other things. It is not much available, that information is not available. what are the indicators to measure the sustainability in farm level? Farm means what kind of farm? Agriculture farm or industry? So there are many studies. If you just see on Google Scholar, also you can use Google Scholar. Many studies on agricultural impact assessment, agricultural product, which kind of agriculture method is better and not. Those are also studied using life cycle assessment. Study of aquaponics, that is also carried out in life cycle assessment.
Sir, I have one question. Sir, how many options or the technological alternatives we can compare using this MCDA methods, multi-criteria decision-making methods?
There is no limit. Means this matrix can be as large as possible. You can set it up in the spreadsheet, and we are developing some web portal decision support tool. So any this particular only active this analytical hierarchy process has a limitation. It can process 7 by 7. Beyond that, it becomes mathematically inconsistent. But many other methods such as Topsys, there is no limit. It's just a metric computation.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So there are no more questions. So I would like to thank Dr. Pradeep Kalwar sir for taking his precious time out and delivering such an informative talk on advanced sustainability assessment tool, that is life cycle assessment tool, and its importance also. So now I would request our principal sir, Dr. Anish Kumar Sharma sir, to present vote of thanks to our speaker.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sheetal. Good morning, all. I, Dr. Anish, from PP Savani University. On the behalf of our university, I thank our expert speaker, Dr. Pradeep Kalwar sir, for conduction of such an informative and useful webinar on sustainability assessment. And I hope that all the participants, they got benefited out of the webinar. And I thank you, sir, for such an informative webinar. Thanks again. And if you get a chance, do visit our university also.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Sheetal, for inviting and other organizers, sir. So thanks, participants. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Participants, please fill the feedback form.